News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it?
We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best.
Bellissima.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
Well, happy Saturday, one and all. Lots of festivities happening around the country. You got fireworks, you got people indulging in the hangover of Halloween. People are drinking beers, they're having fun, they're having a wild time of it. Well, we're going to have a wild time this Saturday as well. I've got some great guests, some great topics, and plenty of fun along the way. So looking forward to having your company. This show is all about interaction. Mark at gbnews.com. This is your perfect Saturday night in. Plenty of surprises and, yeah, a few fireworks metaphorically. It is 9 o'clock on TV, on radio and online in the United Kingdom and across the world. This is Mark Dolan Tonight. In my big opinion, Gary Lineker strikes again, backing a protest march on Armistice Day. It's time someone showed this numpty ex-footballer the red card. My Mark Meets guest is Evie Toombes, who, despite needing 24 hours a day care for spina bifida, has reached the top of show jumping. She tells her incredible and extraordinary and inspirational story before the end of the hour. So looking forward to that one. In the big story, are fireworks a public nuisance? And why has Coronation Street star Maureen Lipman been given extra police protection? I'll be asking Corrie legend Charlie Lawson. And in my take at 10, the row rages on over the Marks & Spencer's Christmas advert, which cancels the word Christmas and takes a blowtorch to our traditional celebrations. Well, we broke the internet with our take at 10 last night. We're getting back on the horse tonight. Morrison's, Lidl, Sainsbury's and Asda have shot back with their own far more festive offerings. I'll be taking sides in the supermarket wars at 10 o'clock. Two hours of big opinion, big debate and big entertainment. First up, here are your news headlines.
Thanks, Mark. Good evening. Our top stories tonight. The Met Police has issued a dispersal order after fireworks were fired into crowds and towards police officers in Trafalgar Square following a pro-Palestine protest. Now, the force says that 11 people have been arrested today so far as a result of today's protests. One person was seen displaying a placard that police believed could incite hatred. Another was arrested on suspicion of assaulting a police officer. A 24-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of a racially aggravated offence after footage was posted online which appeared to show a man praising Hamas. The Prime Minister says plans by some groups to protest during remembrance commemorations are provocative and disrespectful. In a statement, Rishi Sunak said the right to remember in peace and dignity must be protected. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer echoed those comments. He says he supports the police in whatever action is needed. The Foreign Office says it's pressing for the Rafah crossing to be reopened after it was temporarily closed today. In a statement, a spokesman described the situation as disappointing and said they remain in contact with British nationals in the region. 112 UK nationals were on the list to leave Gaza through the Rafah crossing. Today, it's not yet known how many were able to actually make that journey. Earlier, Scotland's First Minister Humza Yousaf announced that his family has now been able to leave Gaza. Well, Israel Defense Forces released footage earlier of the military blowing up tunnels in Gaza and clearing an area of explosive devices. It comes as UN officials warn there is no place that is safe in the Strip as the conflict continues. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected calls from the US Secretary of State for a humanitarian pause until all hostages taken by Hamas are freed. Suella Braverman wants to restrict the use of tents by homeless people in towns and cities, warning British streets risk going the same way as some in the United States. Posting on X, the Home Secretary said many tents are occupied by people, quote, from abroad, living on the streets as a lifestyle choice, end quote. Reports say the crackdown would target tents that become a nuisance, such as those blocking shop doorways. Russell Brand is being sued by a film extra who claims that she was sexually assaulted on a US movie set. His accuser says the actor was carrying a bottle of vodka and appeared intoxicated when he approached her on the set of Arthur in 2010. The lawsuit has been filed in New York and is the first accusation to be made against Brand in court. Brand has not yet responded to that lawsuit. And just a quick bit of breaking news before I go. Germany's Hamburg airport has reportedly been closed after a person with a weapon used a vehicle to break through a gate and reportedly fired into the air twice. We're just getting that story now. We'll bring you more details as we get it. Germany's Hamburg airport closed after a person with a weapon used a vehicle to break through a gate. This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car on digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying, play GB News. Now let's get back to Mark.
Very nice to have Ray Addison with us. He's back in an hour's time. Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. It's going to be a cracking show and it's a real team effort. We've got Dominique, we've got Jonathan, we've got Mescana, and many thanks to Katie on my team who helped me to get this poppy on very, very quickly before we got on air. Unlike Sir Keir Starmer, I like to wear a poppy and keep it on. Look, a busy show coming up, in my big opinion. We'll be discussing Gary Lineker. He strikes again. My response to Britain's most woke ex-footballer, this time on the complex issue of Middle Eastern politics. Time for an early bath for this numpty. In the big story, are fireworks a public nuisance? And why has Coronation Street star Maureen Lipman been given extra police protection? I'll be asking Corrie legend Charlie Lawson. My Mark Meets guest is Evie Toombes, who, despite needing 24 hours a day care for spina bifida, has reached the very heights of show jumping. She tells her extraordinary and inspirational story before the end of the hour. And in my take at 10, looking forward to this one, the row rages on over the Marks & Spencer's Christmas advert, which cancels the word Christmas and takes a blowtorch to our traditional celebrations. Well, we did it as a take at 10 last night. It broke the internet. Tonight, we're back on the horse. Morrison's, Lidl, Sainsbury's and Asda have shot back with their own far more festive offerings. I'll be taking sides in the supermarket wars at 10 o'clock, and you won't want to miss it. Plus, is Harry's split from the royal family permanent? In a GB News World exclusive, we'll be speaking to the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield, who has the story. And we've got tomorrow's front pages at 10:30 with three top pundits who haven't been told what to say and who don't follow the script. Tonight, Colville Ranger, Sajila Kershi and Mike Reid. Tonight I'll be asking the pundits, as Lord Frost says he is a natural conservative, should Nigel Farage take over the Tories if they lose the next election? As her mother spies on her 33-year-old daughter, decorates her kitchen and tells her when to have sex, when is the right age to cut the apron strings? Plus, the most important part of the show, your emails. They come straight to my laptop, mark@gbnews.com. This show has a golden rule. We don't do boring, not on my watch, especially on fireworks night. I just won't have it. So lots of fireworks for the next 2 hours. We start with my big opinion. Do you know, I'm really starting to go off Hamas. Not satisfied with building their strategic headquarters in the basement of a hospital, not satisfied with taking hostages and weaponising civilians and making it harder for people in Gaza to head south, they are now reported to be using ambulances to transport armaments. Of course they are. So rather than carrying injured Palestinians, these vehicles are full of grenades, AK-47s and other instruments of death. What a letdown Hamas have been. With the halo having slipped for these brutal murderers, You'd expect woke progressives going on marches straight after the horrors of the October the 7th attack would be having a change of heart. Well, I'm afraid not. Welcome to the clown world of 2023, where the officially nice, be kind brigade, much better humans than you and me, fill the streets of our great cities every weekend to signal not just their virtue, but their crushing ignorance of Middle Eastern politics and history, and their utter lack of empathy for Israelis who face an existential threat, who face, to be blunt, a second Holocaust. You'd think, wouldn't you, that politicians and high-profile celebrities would back off from any connection with this death cult, which these marches inevitably offer support to by implication. Well, enter stage left former footballer and part-time junk food salesman Saint Gary Lineker, who backs a controversial Palestinian protest march through London on Armistice Day, a day reserved for the memory of those we lost in 2 world wars. He challenges the idea posed by the Home Secretary Suella Braverman that these are hate marches, even though every time they happen, there are calls for a holy war, the elimination of the State of Israel and the wiping out of Jews. Sounds pretty hateful to me. These marches are suffused with anti-Semitic slogans and rhetoric, but Gary seems to have missed that. Perhaps he needs to see some VAR footage of the kind of horrific language and sentiment that makes Jews now afraid to live in their own country. I'm no historian, Gary, but that sounds like 1930s Germany to me, a period in history that you're always keen on referencing, except when the parallel is so obviously appropriate like now. It's like those woke people for whom everyone's a Nazi, except actual Nazis. Bringing more embarrassment to our national state broadcaster, the BBC, who themselves have had an absolute nightmare in their Israel coverage, Lineker is presumably comfortable with people marching in front of the cenotaph next weekend as wreaths are laid, with protesters likely breaking the 2-minute silence designed to remember the war dead. Like the captain of a pub team playing in the FA Cup final, Lineker is woefully out of his depth here. For example, he's all for the ceasefire, which means giving Hamas time to regroup and prepare for more murder. Don't take my word for it. Here is a charming Hamas spokesman, who I'm assuming will be sending Gary Lineker a bottle of bubbly as a thank you for the unintended support. This is Hamas official Ghazi Hamad, who says we will repeat the October the 7th attack time and again until Israel is annihilated. We are victims. Everything we do is justified. What a charming man. I'll assume that includes beheading babies. Now, Lineker does not support Hamas, of course not. His supporters would argue that he's worried, as we all are, about the horrific carnage playing out in Gaza as we speak. Men, women and children dying, hospitals overflowing. It's a humanitarian disaster. Lineker is right to point this out, and he's right to be horrified. But this carnage is not by accident. It's by design. This is the military strategy of Hamas to weaponize human souls. Hamas blocked roads to stop people in Gaza heading south, and they deliberately place innocent people, including children, in harm's way, which is why Hamas will be loving these calls for a ceasefire. Given that these are heartless monsters, baby beheaders and rapists in possession of over 200 hostages, a ceasefire against Hamas is akin to a ceasefire against Hitler himself. Lineker was a great footballer and is a great broadcaster. But not for the first time by straying into complex political issues. I think he's divisive, deluded and wrong. I'm sorry, but I don't buy the nice guy routine. It's my view that Lineker is a preening narcissist who will stop at nothing to build his brand as a professionally lovely human being, insulated from the grim consequences of his luxury beliefs as he tweets from the comfort of his London mansion. It's high time this ex-footballer was sent down the tunnel for an early bath. As usual, he's talking balls. Your reaction, Mark, at gbnews.com. I'll get to your email shortly, but let's hear from tonight's top pundits. Comedian Sajeela Kershi, Conservative peer Kulveer Ranger, and radio and television legend Mike Reid. Let me start with you, Sajeela. Your reaction to Gary Lineker's recent pronouncement. He was very quiet on October the 7th when the massacre happened.
I don't know, because I don't follow Gary Lineker.
Lucky
I don't follow. I mean, I kind of disagree with your opening statement. You said I'm not starting to go off Hamas. I was never on them, and any sane person wouldn't be supporting.
Hopefully, you will have
Hamas.
Detected my tongue in my cheek.
Of course, I did. As a fellow comedian, of course I did. But I was also playing with you there, sir. But yeah, I mean, obviously, no one's going to be supporting Hamas. The interesting thing is, in the last week, what I've noticed on a personal level is how Jewish friends and Muslim friends we're falling out, and that's not cool, because this is happening somewhere else. It's the first time that I've seen this divisiveness. So, in one of the other things you say about, like, not having the march on Remembrance Day, I mean, I'm never, ever going to say no to protest, because protest is something that we have fought hard for, and that's right that we should protest.
Should it be on Remembrance? Have one day?
Yeah, OK, but it could also be pointed. My learned colleague has a cough. Would you like some water?
Yeah, Mike, by the way, absolutely full of the latest COVID variant, so keep
yeah.
I gave him a lengthy hug earlier, so I'll be going down shortly. But listen, I appreciate your point. I mean, you're worried about the nature of the debate on this issue, because you're concerned that it's not balanced.
I don't think it is balanced. I don't think it is balanced. Like, so, you know, we've talked last time I was here about bias.
Yeah.
OK, the BBC bias. But the bias here is, you know, what the shows...
GBNews.
Yeah, GBNews, that I've been watching. It's like, if you replace, every time I hear the word Muslim, if you replace that with Jewish, how would that sound? And so we're already becoming like, oh, the BBC are going to do this and that. And actually, no one wins out of this. No one is winning. And actually, having the march on... I think it might be pointed to have it on Remembrance Day, because it is a time to remember our dead. It is a time to reflect and hope for a peaceful future. Now, we are actually dangerously on the cusp of World War III, and it's actually quite scary. So and when you also say, he's not an expert, who is? With all due respect, you're not an expert.
Sure.
I'm not an expert. Muslims aren't experts. Jewish people aren't experts, you know, living in this UK. Israeli people aren't, and nor Palestinians, because over the years, what's happened is that we've been fed propaganda, you know, through the media, through, like, leaders. A lot of people in Israel don't even know what's going on. And if they do question it, they're getting punished over there. So they don't want the regime that they're under either in Israel. And also... If there's a way out, do you not think we would have found it by now? And I don't think, and I've never, ever, ever going to say it's OK for violence or war or to kill people indiscriminately, whether it's Hamas doing it or whether it's Israel doing it. I'm never, ever going to say that, and I don't think it's our war. I absolutely do not think it's our war.
OK. Well, look, I am not an expert, Kulveer, but I've been on this planet long enough to know that what happened on the 7th of October was a terror attack on the only democracy in the Middle East. And the express intent of Hamas is the destruction of Israel and the elimination of all Jews. And I'm afraid that there was strong anti-Semitic rhetoric on every single one of those marches. And no doubt there will be again if it happens next weekend.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem here. Because I agree with Sajeela. If we could have a peaceful, unifying march where everybody spoke sensibly about what they were trying to achieve, yes. But we're not going to have that. We're going to have potential slogans, potential calls, potential things that are anti-Semitic being said, because that's what's been happening every Saturday when these marches are happening, no matter what the organisers are saying. And that's the worry for people. How do you manage that? How do you stop that becoming a hotbed for activity? But coming back to a couple of other points, on Gary Lineker, you were absolutely right, Mark. He's a nice guy. He was a guy who never got booked in his entire career playing football. I loved him. He played for our beloved Spurs, so, you know, huge fan of him on the football pitch, but not off, because he played by the rules. Let's be clear, there are no rules here. You're right, terror acts by Hamas on the democracy of Israel. This is a war against terrorism, not two states arguing. The last time this happened, where there was an existential crisis in Europe, we carpet-bombed other cities. We weren't talking about innocent civilians. We were bombing them in Germany to just get rid of the Nazis. So we have to understand The rules of war are not comforting. They are not things we can easily embrace. And we will see death and destruction and civilian casualties. It's terrible. Nobody wants to see it. But this was terror that was an attack on Israel, not a balanced two states having a disagreement.
Briefly, Sajila?
Yeah, I was going to say, but that's like saying that the anti-war rally, you know, when we anti-Iraq march, that was a terrible thing, and that wasn't.
No,
that was wrong. And history showed.
No, I didn't say that.
But I'm saying is history showed that was wrong, and I think history will show that actually pro-Palestinian marchers, and yes, there is a small minority, and they should be outed. And I do think they should be arrested. I totally stand with that because that is unacceptable. Any anti-Semitism, any Islamophobia, any racism should be. I'm never going to say that's okay.
Sure.
But I think history will show that this is
the
their right
problem
to
we have is that those leaders, those people who are marching, find it very difficult to call out Hamas as having done the wrong thing in their terror attacks.
But who are these people? Because we're now going to the verging to the thought crime, unless they're actually visually or they're actually already saying something.
What we're going to do is we can return to this at 10:30, because I think the other point that I would argue is to call for a ceasefire, is to tell Israel to suck it up and accept their own, essentially, their own existential crisis, you know, because the bottom line is Hamas's express intent is to destroy all Jews and Israel. And I think that's the problem with ceasefires, is it renders them incapable of defending themselves.
And are you seeing the images that are coming out of Palestine, of all the dead children, of all the dead people? They don't have any arms. They're not holding any weapons. They're not holding any weapons. They're saying that they're weaponising civilians. They are not doing that.
That was terrible. But that is the consequence of the actions that Hamas have taken.
And where are the hostages? The hostages are in now.
Are in Gaza.
OK, in Gaza. And they are bombing Gaza. So what's to say that these hostages have not died, have not been killed?
This is not a rational conversation. War is not a rational situation.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not rational.
No, it's not rational, and we can't rationalise it.
But let's not forget, like I mentioned in the big opinion, that the civilian casualties are not by accident, but by design on the part of Hamas. But listen, you're absolutely entitled to your view, and that's why I want you here today. So we'll return to this at 10:30. Mike, briefly, if you can, you were one of the biggest stars at the Beeb. Do you think it's appropriate that Gary Lineker should be entering this political arena?
Well, anyone can have a view, anyone can have a say. It's easy to do it from the bench, which is where he's sitting. If he was on the pitch, facing the opposition, it might be a different case. If they put him out there in the attack and played him up front, I think he might have a different view to it. But he's always been opinionated, we know that. And the media is such now that we all know the history, go back to the Balfour Declaration. But the media now is so confusing for all of us. You know, what is real, what isn't real, the PR from both sides, the media, the social media, it hits us from all angles. So it almost becomes a media war in many cases. You've got to sort the wheat from the chaff.
Definitely. Well, Mike, I'll give you lots more airtime later. It is a really busy show. What a cracking set of pundits I've got tonight. But coming up next in a big story, are fireworks a public nuisance? And why has Coronation Street star Maureen Lipman been given extra police protection? I'll be asking man of the people, Corrie legend Charlie Lawson. He's next.
Who is it?
We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the dinosaur hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GBNews.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are you ready for some unfiltered emails? mark@gbnews.com. They come straight to my laptop and they're coming in thick and fast. This from Mary, who says, may I suggest getting people like Gary Lineker to be invited to see the verified footage of the horrors of the Hamas attack, but to also include the smell vision of burning flesh. The only way some people will realise is to use sight, sound and smell. Thank you for that. Protests for Palestinians, says Peter. Why not Ukraine or Sudan? Is it because they're not Arab? Keep those emails coming, mark@gbnews.com. Listen, emotions are running high and I'll get to more of your opinions shortly. But it's time now for the big story. And as Guy Fawkes Night looms tomorrow, revellers have spent the week public and private fireworks demonstrations. Whilst it's fun for millions, it's also a time of trauma for some older people, and especially pets, who are often terrified by the loud noises produced. Some argue that fireworks are a joyful spectacle which bring people together. Others consider them a dangerous menace and rather polluting into the bargain. So are fireworks a pain in the arse? That's the question posed in our Mark Dolan Tonight People's Poll, the results of which I will bring you in the next hour. But let's get the views now of the voice of common sense on this show, legendary actor and Coronation Street legend Charlie Lawson. Charlie, great to have you back on the programme. Are fireworks a pain in the arse?
Do you know, I'm a bad influence on you, Mark, son, so I am, because you wouldn't have dreamt to send pain in the arse a year ago. But anyway, God bless you. I actually love fireworks. I think they're great. My problems are really with the idiots who couldn't care less about where they let them off. We had an incident in Prestbury there a few years ago when several horses were panicked and injured themselves. Yeah. My dogs are absolutely fine with fireworks. I'm a shooter, as you can see, and so that I've had gun dogs, and they're absolutely they're fine with them. They don't even look. My German Shepherd Seamus is fine with them, and so is my Jack Russell. But I think that, there's a lot of people who have terrible problems with them, their animals, and I would totally support them. And I would encourage people fireworks to do it sensibly. However, animals respond to humans, and dogs who, if you start putting classic FM on at volume 20 and panicking about the bangs outside, the dog will pick up on that. Just carry on as normal. If your dog is freaking out, then, you know, spend time with him, sit with him or whatever. But otherwise, I took Seamus out earlier on today and he was fine. And I remember when I lived in Alderley Edge, David and Victoria Beckham used to have the most spectacular bloody fireworks you've ever seen in your life because they could afford £500,000 worth. But I loved them. I enjoyed them. I mean, we're killing every other bit of joy we've got, so for the name of Jesus, let's leave fireworks alone. Next thing, it'll be offensive to burn guys on top of, you know, I mean, Jesus, you know where we're going with this?
It's true, health and safety nightmare. I didn't know you were a shooter, by the way. I'd love to know what you get up with your weapon in your own time, but that's for another day. Can I ask you, Charlie, about your former show, Coronation Street? You were the best thing on it. What a brilliant actor you are. Another great actor is Maureen Lipman, and she's received extra top-level security in Manchester ever since the October the 7th massacre in Israel. Are you surprised by this? What's your reaction to Coronation Street and ITV giving her more security?
Well, I have to say I was slightly amused before I thought about it because the picture on the Mail Online is of my good pal Dave, who works in security at Granada. He hasn't been brought in by MI6 or anything like that. He's security on the programme and he's always there. However, the sad thing is that Maureen has always been honest enough to voice her opinion. Everybody knows what it is, and she believes in freedom of speech, and she's allowed, you know, and she's allowed to say what she said. However, I'm only too aware of the threats that go around. I get threats all the time from extreme Republicans on Twitter, etc., but I'm kind of used to it. I don't think Maureen would be a target, but she deserves all the support and protection that she so wishes. She's an elderly lady, and she won't mind me saying that, and it cannot be nice to have threats made to you on your life. You know, not for anybody. She's a passionate Israeli and Jewish supporter, and she would have my 100% backing.
Can I ask you about next weekend, Armistice Day? This is a moment to remember the war dead, and a 2-minute silence. It could be interrupted by protesters. Is that acceptable?
No, it's not bloody acceptable at all. Rishi Sunak is turning out to be a big girl's blouse, and I apologise to anyone who happens to wear big girl's blouses, but he couldn't lead you to Marks and Spencer's. He is the Prime Minister of this country, and he, along with the heads of the Metropolitan Police Office, police force, should be able to stop this march or postpone it. It's as simple as that. And I know for a fact, Mark, that there are an awful lot of veterans from my neck of the woods who are going to London for both Saturday and Sunday. And, you know, and I hope to God it doesn't kick off. But I'm afraid to report to you, Mark, that this afternoon, early evening in Rochdale, at the Cenotaph in Rochdale, there have been poppy wreaths destroyed and Palestinian flags put all over it. So here we go.
Do you think our country is limping towards some kind of civil war?
Oh, I think it's been limping that direction for a long time, and I fear that you know, I think there are mostly sensible people who support Palestine, and I support their right to march. But as we've seen today, it's starting to get hijacked by those Hamas supporters. And don't friggin' well tell me they're not Hamas supporters. Of course they bloody are. So we just have to be very careful. Unfortunately, we've caught the police at a very bad time. They've managed to back themselves into a corner since BLM and COVID and all the rest of it. And now they're starting to have a go at veterans. And I would be a big fan of Norman Brennan. And I understand his support. And I grew up supporting the police as a young man in Northern Ireland. But they've backed themselves into a ridiculous corner where they don't know which end their arse is at all. And, you know, they are becoming, I regret to say, a laughingstock. But my fervent wish is, Mark, that it wasn't happening Saturday, Sunday. But if it does, I would urge everybody to just keep calm, because I can see, I know the veterans, I know them backwards, and they are extremely angry with these little pillocks running about fighting the police and all this lot. And if they come anywhere near the cenotaph, God knows what will happen. But what we don't need is radical right twats turning up. You know, our veterans will be there, and they're perfectly capable of voicing their opinion, and police helping to protect our sacred monuments. And I wish them all the very best. And if I wasn't in Aberdeen next Saturday doing an evening with Charlie Lawson, here we plug, I would be down there in London standing by them.
Charlie, we wish you well. I look forward to having a pint at some point. We must get you into the studio. Charlie Lawson, do book tickets to hear him, a really entertaining and compelling guy, as you've just discovered. Apologies to anyone offended by the choice language, either Charlie's or mine. Now, coming up in an exclusive Mark Dolan Tonight People's Poll, we've been asking, as Lord Frost says he's a natural Conservative, should Nigel Farage take over the Tories if they lose the next election? The results are in. I shall reveal all next, and we'll debate that with my pundits. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan Tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this? It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Toombes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it?
We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the dinosaur hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these 3.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
Now, Daniel from our digital team is busy putting my big opinion out as a video on Twitter at GBNews. I'm calling out Gary Lineker for wading into Middle Eastern politics. This on email from Gwen. Hi, Mark. I'm surprised at Gary Lineker and his remarks on the protests. He played for Tottenham Hotspur, which has links to the Jewish community. Has he forgotten that? Mikkel says, hi, Mark. Let's face it, Gary Lineker loves being controversial. It makes him feel important, gives his ego a boost, because his overpaid job at the BBC is about as useless as a chocolate fireguard. Brilliant stuff. Well, look, strong opinions. If you want to defend Gary, do drop me an email, mark@gbnews.com. But as we've been asking in the course of today, in an exclusive Mark Dolan Tonight People's poll, as Lord Frost says he is a natural Conservative, should Nigel Farage take over the Tories if they lose the next election? The results are in. 75% say yes, Farage should take over the Tories. 25% say no, he should not. Let's get reaction from my top pundits. Sajila Kershi, Lord Corvier Ranger and Mike Reid. Corvier, can I ask you about that? Do you think that Nigel should step back into the political fray if the Tories collapse in a year's time?
I think there's two questions there. One's about whether Nigel will step back into the political fray, and I think, has Nigel ever stepped away? He seems to have,
Yes,
quite rightly...
he's just a cosy TV presenter now.
Well,
like me.
but and a campaigner and fighting the banks.
Of course, it's true. It's true.
I think that's great things that Nigel does.
Yeah.
With the way he draws attention to certain issues, and obviously the things he did around Brexit. But the Conservative Party, the most successful political election-winning party in the world in the last 200-300 years, a broad church. A party that isn't driven by ideology, it's driven by pragmatism, and has done good things in its way because it talks to a broader group of people. It's not about one dimension, it's not about one issue.
Not very ideological either.
No. So with Nigel, he would be, as I think the Prime Minister said, welcomed into the party, but I don't think Nigel would be leader of the party.
What do you think, Mike? I think that he could really move the dial for the Tories if they face an almost existential collapse in a year's time.
Yeah, if they're collapsing, they need a strong leader. I mean, Nigel went, 92, something like that? He left the Tory party.
Yeah.
He's saying he won't come back, but he shoots from the hip. He tells it like it is. He doesn't mess around. Whereas a lot of politicians will avoid the truth, avoid talking about this, avoid various topics. Nigel shoots from the hips. Whether he is too much of a one-man band to be the leader in as you say, of a broad church, I don't know. He's very much his own man. Whether he would listen to other people, I don't know. But I've been on a lot of stages with Nigel, and he is very good. He gets the finger pointed at him unnecessarily, I think, while people are having a go at him. But I think he's fairly honest, he's fairly straight, and he's fairly decent. And they always say racist, but he's not. He just shoots from the hip and tells it like it is, which is good, which is, I think, what you want in politics. You want someone to be honest, whether you disagree with them or not, as long as they're honest.
Most definitely. Now, if he became leader of the Conservative Party, and I realise there are lots of hoops he would have to jump through, he'd have to be presented with a safe seat, perhaps mid-term, in a couple of years' time after the election. But if the Tories thought they could win with him, you know how pragmatic that party are. So do you think that Nigel, if he were to lead the Tories at some point in the future, he could get into number 10 as Prime Minister?
Yes, he could. He has said this week that he wouldn't do it if he was asked. He said, very sweet of you, Lord Frost, but I'm not going to do it. That said...
He's also said to me, never say never.
People do change their minds in politics, as we all know. He could be for turning.
Sakir.
Yeah, he could be for turning.
Sajila, what do you think about this?
I'm going to agree with both the guys here. I think he's a natural leader, but will he be the Tory party leader? No, because you've got to do a lot. I think you'd have to join in, as you say, like a smaller seat. I can't see it, and I can't see that all the values of the Tory party. I don't see that.
What if they were
blending with? I think Nigel's really good at not that I necessarily agree with it, but with pushing Brexit ahead, like the whole bank thing on specific causes. But as an all-rounder, I don't think so.
Can I also say another thing? Because whenever the Tory party has seen a challenge, and the last one was after was in 2000 when we were sort of coming up to the 2005 election. You know, there had been a problem with leadership. We'd been out of power since 97. The Tory party it took its time, but it really needed to look at where is Britain at that point. And that's where David Cameron emerged. That was where it looked at itself. And it saw all the options. There was David Davis, who was seen as a sure-footed, was going to be the lead. Liam Fox, Ken Clarke, you know, good, solid, rock-solid Tories, but they were the past. And the Tory party needed the future, and it found David Cameron. If the Tory party needs a future again, it will look to the future. And unfortunately, it's not going to be Nigel Farage.
Briefly...
Sorry, unfortunately, I mean, it can't be Nigel Farage.
Would you serve under Nigel Farage as leader of the Conservative Party, and would he be a good Prime Minister?
I think Nigel Farage is a good campaigner.
Would you consent to him being the leader?
I don't think he'd make a good Prime Minister because he's a good individual for all the things that we've said.
OK.
And he could do that, and, you know, on the sidelines here, he has huge political power.
All right.
The leaders are natural. They're not elected. You know a natural leader. And
Prime Minister is a different job, though.
Who is a natural leader?
But Prime Minister is a very different job to being not available. Leader.
There you go. Well, look, there you go. That's a bit of an exclusive. Lord Coulvier Ranger not giving the seal of approval to the notion of Nigel Farage becoming leader of the Tories after the next election. Let me know your thoughts on this. Would Nigel Farage be a good Prime Minister? Should he have a crack at the job? Could he save the Tories? Mark at gbnews.com. Now, we'll get to more of your thoughts on that very, very shortly. But next up, looking forward to my Mark Meets guest. This lady is truly inspirational. Evie Toombes, who, despite needing 24 hours a day care for spina bifida, has reached the top of show jumping. She tells her extraordinary and inspirational story before the end of the hour. In fact, she's next. See you in 2. Thank you, folks.
Who is it?
We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the dinosaur hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train. Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows...
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. In just 13 minutes' time in my Take at 10, the row rages on over the Marks & Spencer's Christmas advert, which cancels the word Christmas and takes a blowtorch to our traditional celebrations. Morrison's, Lidl, Sainsbury's and Asda have shot back with their own far more festive offerings. I'll be taking sides in the supermarket wars at 10 o'clock with an exclusive preview of all of the different supermarket ads. You won't want to miss it. That's my Take at 10. It's a good one, but first, Mark Meets. And this evening, top show jumper Evie Toombes, who was officially classified as a para-athlete in 2012 and has since competed in para-show jumping, winning national titles and being selected for Team GB 2 years running with her gorgeous horse, Daisy. All of this in spite of the fact that she was born with spina bifida, a tumour on the base of her spinal cord, which has limited her mobility and left her needing to be attached to medical tubes for up to 24 hours a day. A born winner, she's wowed crowds in her chosen sport and this year won the national championships with her other horse, Jack. She's received a number of awards for her dedication to raising awareness of invisible illness, including a British Citizen Youth Award and the Inspirational Young Person of the Year at the Well Child Awards. She's also a charity ambassador and made headlines last year, winning a landmark legal case after she sued her mother's GP, claiming she should never have been born as a result of poor medical advice given to her mother at the time. Well, I'm delighted to say that she is around and her incredible story continues. Evie Toombes, welcome to Mark Dolan tonight.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for having me.
Look, very excited to have you. Why show jumping and why horses?
Well, my parents tried golf and I sat in the bunker and made sandcastles. I went to ballet and I fell off a lot. And because my legs don't work, Mum kind of thought, oh, well, let's put her on an animal and see what happens, because that's logical with your disabled daughter, isn't it? And I loved it. It was that bit of freedom that I'd kind of never experienced, and being outdoors in the mud, kind of the perfect childhood to cause a bit of chaos with.
And was there one particular horse that caused you to fall in love with this sport?
Definitely not the first horse I sat on. That one booked me on a regular basis. It was the Devil on 4 legs. So definitely not the first one. I'd say my one at the moment is pretty cool. He's my heart horse sort of thing. I can go to him if I've had a really poorly day and just sit with him in the stable. He'll still bite me, he'll still be cheeky, but having that connection with animals is pretty special.
Is that Jack?
That video there was me. So that used to be a friend's horse, actually.
Right. But your current horse, your best mate, is that Jack, who you won the championships with this year?
Yeah, so that was Jack who won the championships, and that's me there. So yeah, but just, I don't know, the animals, there's something so different about them. They've all got their different personality and, you know, it's a different language as well. So you're trying to communicate with them and, you know, get that message across. It's a lot to do.
Yeah, and being thrown off a horse, it's never great, is it? But it can't be great if you have spina bifida.
No, so funnily enough, I had spinal surgery when I was 18 months old, and my parents asked the surgeon there and then, you know, do we need to wrap her in bubble wrap? How careful do we need to be? And he stood there and said, business as usual. Let her ride, let her do whatever she wants. He was also horsey too. And he just said, let her crack on. Obviously, go and get an X-ray if you need to, but life's for living.
Now, you were born with this condition. Has it changed over the years?
Yeah, it's something that always kind of changes and develops. It's slightly different for everyone. So you never, you know, there's no set thing. It's going to be X, Y, Z. You just kind of have to adapt as and when necessary.
Yeah, for sure. And you've done a lot of work in schools and elsewhere, highlighting the issue of people suffering a hidden illness. Why is this so important to you, the idea of a hidden illness?
Definitely. So I grew up mainly with my bladder and bowel not working and my legs. So it was never visible. I chose to hide it and keep it quiet, which was very challenging, obviously trying to stay healthy, have all of these treatments and then also keep it a secret. It's like a secret that you just wanted to keep. When I began being tube fed and I had a nasal tube, all of a sudden it's not so easy to hide. And I began visiting schools to raise awareness of invisible illnesses and try and create more of a positive narrative around it. I think if we can get into children when you're already forming those social ideas before you really understand what's right or wrong, and then they can grow up with the knowledge that, well, it's not a bad thing that someone else is different. They might need more support. I can be the one to support them. And with all of the aim of creating a better future for other children like myself.
You've achieved great things in sport and in the charity sector. You speak so well. Frankly, you could have my job. But it's clearly you're one of those people that you're not interested in having a barrier, anything stopping you. What drives you to sort of pursue these challenges in the light of quite significant symptoms?
I must admit, I think you have to be a little bit crazy. All of the best people are. You've got to just have something you love doing that much that actually it doesn't matter if you're kind of going through hell on the outside. If you've got something that keeps your focus, it can just keep you going, get you out of bed each morning. We all have struggles, you know, big or small. We all need something that kind of boosts us along.
Now, listen, there was the court case. I think it was last year you sued the GP who was looking after your mother when she conceived you. Why did you take this action?
Yes, so one of the first things that's probably relevant to say is there was a headline saying I should have never been born. And that was actually a quote from the other side that they had said to kind of suggest what I would say. Now, I wasn't actually at the court case at all. I didn't need to be involved because obviously it happened before I was born. But the idea being that this GP, and he did admit to this, it's available online to view the transcript. He admitted to giving advice he knew was against the guidelines. And essentially what we're aiming for is that all GPs be fully aware to give advice in line with the guidelines. So otherwise we'd probably just go onto Facebook to ask for advice. And there's a lot of doctors that work so hard to keep up to that standard, and it's really important to implement that.
Well, I think it was another important victory in your life, and you're absolutely right to point out it's definitely going to help others. And your mum was very poorly advised at the time, but thank God you're here. You're an amazing young woman. I can't wait to have you back on the show. The clock's against us. I'm going to get in trouble with Dominique, but briefly, if you can, what's next for you, Evie?
Oh, well, I must admit, I've got a Hickman line in my heart and I might need changing soon, so I'm not keen on that type of surgery. I'm not brave with everything. But definitely just more fun, trying to manage a few health things that I'm currently really struggling with. So I've been a bit quiet recently, but hopefully in the new year, things will be back up and running. I'll be causing a bit more trouble and back visiting a lot more schools with our book, Lucy Goes to School too.
Well, that's brilliant. Lots of love to you and to that gorgeous horse of yours, Jack, and look forward to catching up soon. The brilliant para show jumper, Evie Toombes. What an impressive young woman. Well, coming up in My Take at 10, I'll be dealing with Marks and Spencer's. The row over their dreadful Christmas ad rumbles on. I've got more in a Mark Dolan Tonight world exclusive. Marks and Spencer's, look away now. That's next.
Who is it?
We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the dinosaur hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If the Tories lose the next election, should Nigel Farage take over? Martin says, Mark, of course Nigel should be leader. They will need him after the election. Nigel can walk on water and charm the leaves from the trees. But most of all, he is sincere. Thank you for that. Keep those emails coming. Great to have your company. It is 10 o'clock. On television, on radio and online in the United Kingdom and across the world, this is Mark Dolan Tonight. In my take at 10, the row rages on over the Marks & Spencer's Christmas ad, which cancels the word Christmas and takes a blowtorch to our traditional celebrations. Well, we broke the internet last night with our take at 10. But let me tell you, I've got new developments because Morrison's, Lidl, Sainsbury's and Asda have shot back with their own far more festive offerings. I'll be taking sides in the supermarket wars in just a few minutes. You won't want to miss it. Also, is Harry's split from the royal family permanent? In a GB News World exclusive, we'll be speaking to the Queen of US showbiz royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield, who has the story. Plus, tomorrow's newspaper front pages and live reaction in the studio from my top pundits. So it's a packed show, lots to get through, folks, but I will be dealing with Marks & Spencer's and this dreadful saga. I'm not pulling my punches. You won't want to miss it. But first, the news headlines with someone that could never be cancelled, the brilliant Ray Addison.
Good evening, I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. The Met Police arrested 11 pro-Palestine protesters after thousands demonstrated in central London earlier. One person was seen displaying a placard that police believed could incite hatred. Another was arrested on suspicion of assaulting a police officer. The force also issued a dispersal order after fireworks were fired into crowds and towards police officers in Trafalgar Square. The Prime Minister says plans by some groups to protest during Remembrance commemorations are provocative and disrespectful. In a statement, Rishi Sunak said the right to remember in peace and dignity must be protected. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer echoed those comments. He says he supports the police in whatever action is needed. Foreign Office says it's pressing for the Rafah crossing to be reopened after it was temporarily closed today. In a statement, a spokesperson described the situation as disappointing. They said they remain in contact with British nationals in the region. 112 UK nationals were on the list to leave Gaza through the Rafah crossing today. It's not yet known how many were able to actually make that journey. Earlier on, Scotland's First Minister Humza Yousaf announced that his family has now been able to leave Gaza. Suella Braverman wants to restrict the use of tents by homeless people in our towns and cities, warning that British streets risk going the same way as some in the United States. Posting on X, the Home Secretary said many tents are occupied by people, quote, from abroad, living on the streets as a lifestyle choice, end quote. Reports say the crackdown would target tents that become a nuisance, such as those blocking shop doorways. Well, Germany's Hamburg airport has been closed after an armed man used a vehicle to break through security gates and onto a runway. Now, you can see eyewitness footage filmed from the airport. We can see their authorities trying to put out fire that is actually on the runway in front of one of the planes. Hamburg police saying that they're actually dealing with a static hostage situation. It follows media reports that the man had 2 children in his care and fired twice in the air. There are also reports that the man's wife had contacted the police about a possible child abduction. We'll bring you more on that story as we get it. Russell Brand is being sued by a film extra who claims that she was sexually assaulted on a US movie set. His accuser says the actor was carrying a bottle of vodka and appeared intoxicated when he approached her on the set of Arthur back in 2010. The lawsuit has been filed in New York and is the first accusation to be made against Brand in court. Brand has not yet responded to that lawsuit. This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. Now let's get back to Mark.
My thanks to Ray Addison, who is the perfect companion for a Saturday night in. Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. Is Harry's split from the royal family permanent? In a GB News World exclusive, we'll be speaking to the Queen of US showbiz royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield, who has the story, and boy, it's quite a story. Plus, tomorrow's newspaper front pages and live reaction in the studio from tonight's top pundits. The brilliant comedian Sajila Kershi, Lord Coolvere Ranger, former advisor to Boris Johnson, and television and radio legend Mike Reid. Plus, they'll be nominating their headline heroes and backpage zeros of the day. And I'm delighted to say the political editor of the Daily Express Online, David Maddox, with a bit of early detail on Nadine Dorries' tell-all book about the Tories and Boris Johnson. That's at 10:30. The papers are coming, but first, my take at 10. Well, we made quite a splash last night with our Take at 10. It went more viral than a Premier League footballer on a lad's trip to Ibiza. I called out Marks & Spencer for a deeply offensive Christmas ad in which characters set fire to Christmas cards, shredded Christmas party hats, shoved a disgusting loo roll on top of a Christmas tree, used a baseball bat to whack a little elf into the sky, and most offensively, they actually got rid of the word Christmas at the end. Take a listen. That's right, folks. Marks & Spencer, who make a disproportionate amount of their money during the festive season, have cancelled the word Christmas. Make it make sense. It's worth noting that the part of the word that they removed is Christ from Christmas. Make of that what you will, but I'd love to see other religious festivals have their name adulterated in such a way. I won't hold my breath. Yes, folks, the final line in the advert and the slogan is love thismas, not thatmas. And that's progress, is it? Well, the advert has proved to be as popular as an itchy pair of socks from your grandma. The renowned head teacher Catherine Burble-Singh has said that this ad has made it much more difficult to teach children about Christmas values by putting selfishness first. She said the store had put two fingers up to the message behind Christmas. In an open letter to Marks & Spencer, she expressed deep disappointment and outrage. She wrote, "You have a duty as a national department store to keep the spirit of Christmas alive for the sake of our children." She goes on to say, "I run an inner-city school in London where we try hard to instil values of decency daily in our children. When Marks & Spencer puts two fingers up to these values, it makes our lives as teachers much more difficult, and it stifles social mobility and happiness for our children, in particular for the disadvantaged." Let's be honest, and I hate to use the W word, but this ad is wokery at its finest, denigrating a national tradition, treating it as something naff and embarrassing, shameful maybe, something to be rubbished, torched, shredded, discarded, thrown away like old, unwanted wrapping paper. But I'm pleased to say that other supermarkets have stepped up to the plate. Look at this gorgeous offering from Lidl, with a charming story of a cheeky raccoon rescuing a soft toy for a small child upset at having broken a Christmas bauble. Wonderful special effects, beautiful music, great acting, and look at that little creature. Who wouldn't want to give him a little cuddle? Not just the kid, not just the little soft toy or the dog, but the beaver himself. So, you know, that is what I call a Christmas celebration. Hats off to the brilliant Lidl. There was great fun from Sainsbury's as well, with their advert shot in Branch, featuring a charming little girl who gets on the tannoy system to ask about Father Christmas. Well, all the staff are panicking. They don't want to reveal any details there. The food looks great. They're driving through the snow. And then Rick Astley, pop superstar, presumably with a clear message. Christmas, I'm never going to give you up. Oh, mince pies, Father Christmas, lovely baker. What's not to like? Oof. There you go. See, the spirit of Christmas. It's not that hard. Let me tell you that Asda get the biggest kiss under the mistletoe. Actually, no, first of all, can we have a look at this? I love this. This is Morrison's, and this is so good. It's the talking oven glove. In all different settings, and they're singing and they're chatting away. Look at that. Isn't that just brilliant? Again, how do they do those special effects? Great animation. Profiteroles out the freezer. But again, this is the kind of show that celebrates Christmas. These are the ads that do that as well. But I think Asda gets the top prize for this triumph, with legendary crooner Michael Bublé stepping into a new role as the Asda Chief Quality Officer, as he goes from department to department, sampling the cheese, nibbling on the pigs in blankets, and sinking his teeth into Christmas pudding, whilst admiring some of the Christmas fashions, courtesy of Asda. So look, there you go. He's filled his boots there with some kind of delicious cake. He's got a glittery outfit for the missus. It's Michael Bublé, everyone. What's not to like? And here's a Christmas tune. We got the tune? Play me the tune.
Walking in a winter wonderland.
Well done to my colleague Miss Garner for putting that together. And that is how it's done. That's what Christmas looks like, Marks and Spencer. I fear that by cancelling Christmas, many shoppers will cancel them. This is not just a cock-up. This is an M&S cock-up. In fact, I'm not sure Father Christmas will be coming down their chimney this year because they've been so naughty. Santa will be emptying his sack somewhere else. And who could blame him? Was this advert ho, ho, ho from Marks and Spencer? No, no, no. Weren't those adverts brilliant? I'm loving the talking oven glove. I'll be watching that forever. Well done, Morrison's. By the way, plenty of other supermarkets are brilliant too. I mean, I'm sure that Aldi will bring out a very good one. Co-op, Londis, you know, there's plenty out there. There's plenty of options. And by the way, can I say one thing? I don't do cancel culture, not on my watch. I'm not cancelling Marks and Spencer. In fact, there's one across the road. I love it. Love the staff. And I will continue to go to Marks and Spencer, but I think this year they've dropped the Christmas bauble. What do you think? Mark at gbnews.com. Let's hear from my top pundits. Comedian Sajila Kershi, Conservative Pierre Lord, Coolvia Ranger, and radio and television legend Mike Reid. Mike, you're an expert on all matters media. You've been in it for decades. What's your appraisal of the Marks and Spencer's ad and the fallout?
Well, I think Sainsbury's is interesting because Rick pops up. His current single is called Never Gonna Stop, but they should have had Never Gonna Shop anywhere but Sainsbury's.
It's true.
You see, they missed a trick there. Carl Vera and I would like to actually make a pitch next year for... Was Asda the raccoon? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was obviously conceived in an opium den somewhere after a wild night. Whose brainchild was that? But we'd like to pitch for the other one, the Michael Bublé. We felt that they missed out on a bottle of Bublé, which would have been very, very festive. That's good. Marks and Spencer's, I think, should probably be excommunicated, or maybe even something worse. And banned from Sunday school, certainly, for missing the Christ out of Christmas and virtually desecrating it. I mean, more S&M than M&S, I think.
Brilliantly put, my goodness. There you go, Mike Reid demonstrating what a broadcasting legend he is. He couldn't have put it better. Carl Vera, Marks and Spencer's, as Mike has just mentioned there, they took the word Christ out of Christmas. A profound insult.
It's a bit bar humbug, isn't it? You're sort of, you know, we all know what Christmas is about. We all have those nostalgic memories for it. We love the adverts. They're all there to churn up those rose-tinted spectacles about Christmas. Why ruin it by trying to take out the essence of Christmas? And as Mike was saying, we've been discussing this at length. It's been the #1 story for us. And I think, you know, Asda have really secured the #1 spot with the Bublé hit. And they've done it, and all the others have done that, bringing the traditional, bringing the bit of the modern, a bit of music, that sort of earworm that'll get into your head, and just giving you that warm feeling that you want as those nights come in and families get together. And whether you love it or loathe it, you know, you're going to have them around for a couple of hours or a couple of days, and you're going to want all that food and have that bring those memories again. So,
definitely. Listen,
that's what it's about. So I think M&S missed that.
It is what it's about. Sajila, you're not just a brilliant comedian, but you've done loads of theatre as well. And I think that's what those other adverts from Asda, from Sainsbury's, from Lidl, from Morrison's, it had theatre. And there was something very wrong about the M&S ad.
Well, the thing is, right, I love Christmas. I don't know why they've taken the Christ out the miss, right? Christmas.
And you're not a Christian, right?
Yeah, no, but it's nothing to do with that. It's like everybody enjoys Christmas. I love it. It's a favourite. Everybody knows me. It's my favourite time of the year.
And you like that word?
I love Christmas. And do you know what? I won't be buying knickers from M&S anymore. That's it. You're done, M&S. I'm sorry.
Breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news.
You know what?
No
I'm
more
going to
big
join you.
pants
I'm not going to buy knickers from there either, in solidarity.
Yeah.
Even though they're very comfortable.
Ladies, let's all stick together. Come on.
Can I just tell you, my body is not the same as it was before I had kids, and Marks and Spencer's underwear is very forgiving, but there you go. But on a serious note, Sajila, a lot of people are quite upset by the Marks and Spencer's ad because it involved taking a little elf and whacking him into the sky with a baseball bat. It involved setting fire to Christmas cards and shoving a loo roll on a tree. What has got into M&S?
Well, the elf thing is, I think we should question sort of domestic violence in the in Santa's grotto. I think that's appalling.
Correct.
But no, I think that the toilet roll thing, I wasn't offended by the toilet roll thing because we used to make like little fairies at school, and my mum used to put them on the tree. So I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, but this was just a bloody loo roll. It wasn't even decorated. Yeah, but you know what I mean?
I made a loo roll, Angel. That's not the... I think it's the fact that you've just taken Christmas and you think that somehow that's inclusive, and I don't think it is, because I think what was inclusive, and funny, we were talking outside, was that Boris Johnson, I felt, was a better mayor than he was a PM, and he did bring all the cultures into Trafalgar Square, and I thought that was one of the best things that he did, to celebrate each other's cultures. And Christmas should be celebrated by everyone. Just like all the other cultures. I think taking it out was a silly thing to do.
Without touching the word, without touching the message, I agree with my brilliant pundits. Well, look, I've got an excellent solution for my rather damaged relationship with Marks and Spencer, which is that I would like to invite Marks and Spencer in a year's time to get back to the drawing board, do a proper Christmas ad that's got the word Christmas in, that's full of the traditions. You got Father Christmas, you got the angel on the tree, you got people making like turkey and having cake and drinking wine. And I will allocate airtime on this programme, on Mark Dolan tonight, to carry that ad, because I think it's important that you forgive and forget. So I'm going to give Marks and Spencer's a second chance next Christmas. But you're on notice now, Marks and Spencer. You're never allowed to cancel Christmas again. Coming up, is Harry's split from the royal family permanent? In a GB News World exclusive, we'll be speaking to the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. She's got the story, and she's next.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's
my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Tubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the dinosaur hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these 3.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
I'm afraid Marks and Spencer's have cancelled Christmas. That was the topic of my Take at 10. A quick email. Ron says, Mark, great show, but as for Christmas ads, it's too early. It's only the start of November, FFS. Why can't these ads start at the beginning of December? Mark, so good tonight. Well played, says John. Close to my place, I've got a Co-op, Sainsbury's, Iceland, one-stop Tesco, and yes, M&S Food Hall. Guess which shop I'll be giving a miss for quite some time. And then finally, Jacqueline. How are you, Jacqueline? What a lovely, glamorous name that is. Bet you're glamorous, Jax. Jacqueline says, I was quite upset by the elf being batted out to oblivion and torching the Christmas cards. I stopped shouting at M&S in 2020 when I bought a meat pie from them and was seriously ill from some form of food poisoning. Jacqueline, poor you. A friend of mine got food poisoning once, and I said, are you all right? Are you going to be all right? She said, yeah, I'm just focused on the amount of weight loss I'm going to achieve. Listen, lots of emails to get through, but first it is time for US News with the Queen of American showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield, live from Arizona in the US. Kinsey, you're at the Polo. Tell me more.
That's right. I'm at the Scottsdale Polo Party in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I've got the Wales Polo team playing behind me. They're doing incredible. Ricky Cooper, captain of the Polo team, recently was talking to me about how King Charles is their current patron. They expect Prince William, this is breaking news, Prince William to become their patron So they're pretty excited about that. But a lot of fun here. Mark, we're stealing all of the things from you guys. Polo, the way, your sharp dress, your handsomeness. We're just taking it from you.
Well, listen, you're not taking any beauty from us because you've monopolised that. You look absolutely stunning, Kinsey. I love your dress. I love your hair. I love the hat. You look amazing. Let's talk about the really worrying story that you've unearthed. The idea that Harry's split from the royal family could be permanent. Tell me more.
You're so sweet. You're giving me way too much credit. This is actually Tom Quinn that has recently said this. Tom Quinn is a brilliant author, and he has said that the split between Harry and his family is likely very permanent because the family is so hurt by it. Now, I just told you, I'm out here with a lot of people from your neck of the woods, and they are telling me the same thing, that the family is absolutely stunned by Harry's activity. They're devastated, and there is no reconciliation on the horizon as far as people close to the royal family are concerned. They just do not see that reunion happening. They say that the royal family is truly, truly hurt by Harry's actions over the last few years, and they never thought he was capable of such things.
Well, I find it very sad, and I think you and I will agree. We've had our differences with Harry and Meghan and their behaviour, but I, and I'm sure you, would really like Harry to reunite with his family because blood is thicker than water, and I do hope this can be resolved. Tell me about Meghan Markle. She had her eye on some rather grand accommodation when she was living in this country.
Yes, sir. Isn't this interesting that this story is recirculating? Meghan Markle, when after she married Prince Harry, she'd approached the family and asked if they could have, suites within Windsor Castle. She wanted to share the same space with the Queen. Now, she was denied that space for multiple reasons. I think one being that Harry and Meghan are very private individuals, and there are tours that walk through Windsor Castle. Like, what were they going to do when people needed to, use the restroom in Windsor Castle in the middle of their tour? But here's my thing, Mark. I think that this was Meghan really kind of fixated on what the Princess of Wales, the Duchess of Cambridge at the time, Kate Middleton had. Meghan trying to have something of similar value. And I think that, Meghan was a princess that wanted a castle. And, she was denied. And I don't necessarily think that was the wrong decision.
Well, she was quite cheeky, wasn't she? It reminds me of when she asked Joe Biden for a lift home back to America in Air Force One. She's clearly something of an opportunist, but good luck to her. Can we talk about the love affair that never ends? King Charles and Camilla in Kenya, genuine affection between the two of them, Kinsey.
There is a great video, Mark, of Camilla hopping the king on his bottom, and it made me think of Prince William in that huge group of people saying, "Who just pinched my bottom?" Well, Mark, now we know the culprit. Perhaps he's a little paranoid because Camilla's got some frisky hands. But I love seeing the king and the queen affectionate. What we want is for these two to lean on each other, love each other, and together be a powerful, a power couple, and to utilize each other's strengths for comfort.
Definitely. You've got your reservations about Camilla and her history with Diana and Charles, but I'm sure that with me you wished the couple well. I guess it's water under the bridge now. Briefly, if you can, Kinsey, very sad news, the death of a true comedy legend, Matthew Perry. Do we know what happened to him at this stage?
Mark, toxicology reports, we're waiting for those. It's going to take 4 to 6 weeks. And one of his friends recently came out and said he was so committed to his recovery. He was so committed to being sober that when they would go out to eat, he refused to even hold the alcohol beverage menu. Athena Cosby, I believe is her name, saying that there is no way that he relapsed. And we're just going to have to wait on those toxicology results. The autopsy is done. The results were deferred. And until we get the toxicology reports back, we don't necessarily have the answers that we're desperate for. I mean, we all love him, and we're curious to know what happened.
Most definitely. Kinsey, you're even better on the road, live from the Polo in Arizona, and she's supporting the Wales' team, who I'm sure will go on to be victorious. You look fabulous. Stay gorgeous, and we'll see you in a week's time.
Thank you.
The brilliant Kinsey Schofield. Coming up later, we've got tomorrow's newspaper front pages with full pundit reaction. In fact, it's next. And I've got the results of an exclusive Mark Dolan Tonight People's Poll. I've been asking, are fireworks a pain in the arse? The results are in. That's next.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
This time.
Welcome to the dinosaur hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The dinosaur hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train. Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows,
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan Tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Lovely to have your company. I hope you've been enjoying fireworks this weekend. But I've been asking in an exclusive Mark Dolan Tonight People's Poll, are fireworks a pain in the arse? Well, 64% of you say yes, they are. 36% say no, not at all. They're actually great. No, they're great, says the emoji. So there you go. A majority agree with me that they are a dreadful nuisance. Environmentally unfriendly, smelly and dangerous. Bar humbug. It is 10:30, so it's time for tomorrow's front pages. Going to Nick Lord Culvier Ranger's papers, and we start with, where shall we? Oh, by the way, can I apologise because I've got a bit of a brilliant... No, can we not do a paper flick first? Can we do that, folks? Let's do the front pages first of all, and we do the Mail on Sunday. Political Book of the Year. Tory party covered up for serial rapist MP. Devastating letter to police from top official. Claims party did little to stop attacker, but paid for victim to get treatment. These are bombshell stories from Nadine Dorries' expose that is the talk of Westminster. I've got a guest on that in just a couple of minutes. The Sunday Telegraph, Met Police advisor led from river to sea chant. Labour mulls robot tax for firms replacing staff with AI. And homeless tents, a lifestyle choice for many, says Suella Braverman. The Observer next. And revealed plan to brand anyone undermining the UK as an extremist. And Gaza siege conditions unacceptable, says Labour. Sunday Times. We find a tunnel and blow it up. Hunting Hamas, Israeli troops push into Gaza City. Arab leaders repeat calls for an immediate ceasefire. Meanwhile, Kenyan police fly in to quiz British soldiers over Agnes murder. Agnes Wanjiru was found stabbed to death in 2012 at a hotel in Kenya. Witnesses said she was last seen leaving the bar with a British soldier. Sunday Express, friends reunited at tragic Matthew Perry's funeral. My terror over race hate mobs. A Holocaust survivor rescued by Britain has told how the pro-Palestinian marches have left him fearing for his life for the first time since fleeing the Nazis. This poor chap is 93 years old. The Independent. Pro-Palestine protest march marred by anti-Semitic chants and jail sentences to end for thousands of abusive men. And Daily Star Sunday. Greatest rescue bar none. The lamb shank redemption. Would you believe it? Britain's loneliest sheep has been rescued by a gang of plucky farmers. The daring bid saw them haul the animal, which had been stranded alone for at least 2 years, 820 feet up a cliff, back to safety. Always nice to have a good news story. But let me tell you, we've got this other developing story, and it's all about Nadine Dorries. Nadine Dorries is not mad. Here's why her claims of a shadowy Tory mafia are serious. Nadine Dorries, of course, a great loyalist of Boris Johnson, has written a book, a tell-all tome, about what she considers to have been a right royal political stitch-up that saw Boris Johnson ousted from number 10. Well, a man that's written a brilliant article about it in today's Express Online is its political editor, David Mannix, and he joins me now. Hi, David. Thank you so much for making the time. How important is this book going to be?
Hi, Mark. Always a pleasure to join you. I think this has the potential to blow apart the Conservative Party. As I said in my article, what Nadine has done is she's basically been the little boy in the Emperor's New Clothes story and just pointed out the obvious that everybody's been refusing to acknowledge. And that's that this, small cabal has been running the Conservative Party now for probably the best part of 2 decades, maybe more. Including people like Michael Gove, allegedly, and Dominic Cummings, allegedly, and this chap, Dougie Smith, very shadowy. There's literally only 2 pictures of the man that exist online. So, and all of it is about controlling who is the MPs and controlling the parliamentary party.
So she's hoping to expose this. Could it damage Rishi Sunak?
I think it could, because it's quite clear even from the first article that she's linking in Rishi's rise to power with this group. And there's a lot. I mean, in my article, there's a lot of evidence, a lot of claims going around of really how involved he was and his team was in bringing down Boris, in bringing down Liz Truss, and really manipulating the party into these 2 coups, which of course brought him installed as leader without any vote from members, any vote from the general public. Essentially, a man without a mandate, from a small group of people who wanted him there.
Indeed, and a central premise of the book is that Boris Johnson was unfairly ousted. Nadine Dorries is angry. Hell hath no fury like a female politician scorned.
That's very true, and I think Nadine's the one who's becoming the public face of this, but there's a good many more behind the scenes, many linked to the Conservative Democratic Organisation, which is this kind of Lord Cruddas-led grassroots organisation leading the fight back as such. It's going to be very interesting, actually. I think my only criticism of Nadine is that she's making it very much about Boris, obviously for her own reasons, of that he's a close friend. But, you know, this is actually about the quality of democracy in our country and the control, really, of one of the two parties, which will be the governing party in a first-past-the-post system. And it's deeply worrying.
The Tory mafia running the Conservative Party. Head straight to theexpress.co.uk and check out David Maddox's brilliant, rather exposing article on Nadine Dorries' explosive tell-all tome. David, we'll catch up soon. Thank you very much for your time. Can I get instant reaction from Boris Johnson's former top advisor, Lord Coulvier Ranger? Tory party covered up for serial rapist MP is one allegation from this book, and this claim of a shadow Tory mafia running the party. Your reaction?
There's a book to be sold here, I believe. It's probably my instant reaction. Look, as someone who's been involved in many different ways with the Conservative Party over the last 20 years, I recognise the names of some of the people here. I would not recognise the description of them being some sort of mafia that has been running the Tory party. As we've discussed earlier on this very show, is a broad church, has a number of major people, organisations affiliated with it. It's pragmatic, it's practical, it adapts, it adopts. It has moved with the times. We've had David Cameron, we've had Theresa May, we've had the changes that we've had, you know, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, these were not controlled by one or two people pulling some puppetry strings. This was British politics dealing with major issues, national and international. So to try to say that there is a small cabal of people who make all this happen.
Was your former boss and friend Boris Johnson the victim of a coup, though? Because that's the central premise of this extraordinary book.
I think there were challenges to Boris. Boris has been said many times as a unique politician, and people loved him for that. But I think equally people found that challenging. He wasn't a traditional politician. I think they found it difficult in the system as well as outside the system to deal with that. So there may have, and I think there has been a gradual sort of take of Boris that is that, well, he doesn't do things a traditional way. He doesn't go play by the rules. But that was part of his, as you said, his success. His career in politics has been hugely successful. The old adage, all political careers end in failure. But to get there, he was hugely successful.
I'll come to Mike and Sajila in just a second, but you have been at the very heart of a Boris Johnson administration in City Hall. Are the Tory party now in a full-blown civil war, and could it get worse as more detail from this book emerges?
No, there is no civil war here. There is a, you know, and people when they leave the political stage can feel quite bruised for all kinds of reasons. Nadine is a very clever, successful woman who has achieved many things, and she writes interesting books. So she's going to write a book.
Is this another work of fiction from her, do you think?
I don't know. I haven't read it yet. I've got to read it and then I'll make a judgment. But look, she's a very talented
Does that sort of Tory mafia sound made up to you?
Well, it sounds like what you'd want to read in a book and why you might buy it. So, you know, I might have to get a copy and sort of see what it's about.
Sajila, is it ungraceful for Nadine Dorries to lash out like this in the form of a book?
I think this is sour grapes because you got the peerage, you got lordship, and she didn't. No, I'm joking. It's not about you, but I think it's because she didn't get her peerage. That's what she was waiting for, and she's very angry about that. She made that quite clear. She couldn't mask that. She couldn't hide it. You know, I always secretly thought she's secretly in love with Boris, but I don't know if that's going to come out in the book.
Poor woman.
Yeah, well,
if that's true, she needs.
Yeah, I mean, I know, but I do think. I mean, it's the fact you've got mafia, you've got, like, you know, rape's being covered up. She's definitely getting you to... I agree with you that she's trying to get us to buy the book. But you don't recognise any of the stuff that you're saying. And I find it sort of... I'm going to buy the book, actually.
Yeah, well, I think it will be a cracking read, I've got to say. Mike, I've got plenty of viewers and listeners who will be angered by these revelations because they genuinely feel that they had an elected Prime Minister in Boris Johnson that was taken off them without consent.
Yeah, they have two unelected Prime Ministers since, which is a problem. I mean, no, I agree. I mean, and I agree with Coulvier about traditional values. I mean, that's why people didn't like Trump. He was not a traditional president. Boris was not a traditional PM. And with this book, I mean, how do you refute serial rapist MP? Who was it? Who were the mafia? Who's covering up? Are people going to step out and say, "Oh, that was me. I was one of those"? I don't think so. So you can weave it into a novelette in a way, can't you? I mean, again, I haven't read it, so I don't know. But you can, and the next thing will come along that will override it. This book will come out. They want a shock horror, and then something else will come along, and it'll disappear. It'll be in the remainder bin.
How about this one in the Sunday Telegraph, Sajila? Labour considers a robot tax for firms replacing staff with AI. Is there nothing Labour won't tax?
I don't know what to say to that, other than that I don't agree with AI coming over here, taking our jobs, taking our houses, taking our benefits. So I think tax the AI. I don't know. I think it's dangerous, because I know this has been really in the media, the whole AI stuff. And I think we need to tread carefully although we've got on the cusp of this world war, but this is something that's a huge thing that's going to affect all of us.
Correct. And we've seen it in history, though, haven't we? Actually, I should ask you about this, Mike, because you're a keen historian yourself, a published historical author. It was ever thus, wasn't it? Any new technology, there were always the Luddites who were against it.
Absolutely. In smashing the machinery. I'm working with somebody at the moment in the States, which is something, it's not a step further from AI, but it's the kissing cousin to, and something new, and something very different, and something very innovative. And I can't wait to start in a few weeks' time, because it's AI plus. But AI can make anybody look good. You apply it to your thing, and people go, "Oh, this guy's quite intelligent." That is a problem, that the people that write normally can do it, and the people that can't can use AI, which is a problem. Does it put everyone on the same level, on the same platform? And then can they back up what they're saying in AI verbally? If somebody said, "OK, tell me what you've written," if they can't then back it up verbally, they have a problem.
Are you worried about AI? And do you think it should be taxed, like Labour is suggesting?
No. Look, this is basically about taxing profits, right? Because when you bring in machines, automate things, machine learning, and that's been happening over the last decade or so, there potentially is more profit. So how are you going to tax that? So it's an interesting headline.
You're punishing companies for being efficient and investing in the future, aren't you?
Well, that may be what Labour is trying to do, but that's the signal they'll be sending these businesses as well. But I think the AI question is for me a really interesting one. As somebody who's spent a lot of my career, the last 25 years, looking at technology emerging, whether it's the internet that popped up, IoT, Internet of Things, then we moved on to contactless technology, e-money, smartphones. We've had these shifts going on, and AI is part of that shift. I don't think it's anything for us to be overly fearful of, but we've managed these changes. I think right now it's peak AI, because everyone's kind of thinking, does this mean the robots take over? No, it doesn't. But we do have to make sure we take people with us. I've spoken a lot about what I call the digital society. That's where technology comes into everyone's lives, but we must feel that everyone trusts the technology, feels they have an understanding of it, and have a vested interest in it as it moves us forward.
And because it's been invented doesn't mean we have to use it.
No, that's a really, really good point.
Yes.
This is the latest. It may be the latest, but it doesn't mean we have to implement it.
It shouldn't be done to us. We should have some control and power over it.
Most definitely. Briefly, if you can, Jeremy Clarkson, writing in The Sun this weekend, said that if machines do everything, there will be no economy. Is that a reasonable fear?
No, because that's like the old Luddite question, is if that takes over, what are we going to do?
What will we do?
I remember speaking to an Uber driver. I speak to lots of them because it's my other car. But I say to them, when they say, well, what are we going to do when we don't have this job? I say, well, did you think 10 years ago your job would be by a phone, using a phone to drive your car around? So things will evolve. We'll have new jobs.
But have you seen iRobot?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's all I'm going to say.
It's like a documentary. Listen, we've got more papers to come, plus my pundits will be nominating their headline heroes and back page zeros, plus the most amazing story of a woman in her 30s whose mother redecorated her house and tells her when she can have sex. When is the right age to cut the apron strings? We'll discuss that, plus more of your emails, more front pages, and more brilliant pundit chat. And they'll be nominating their headline heroes and back page zeros. As I say, a really busy final part to come. We've saved our best for last. I'll see you in 2.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
Welcome to the dinosaur hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6 is Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'll get to more of your emails shortly. They're flooding in thick and fast. But let's have a look at... well, where should we start, Sir Jonathan? Let's have a look at the Mirror, and they lead with Kylie. Vegas residency launches in style, first night review. And as new victim files a lawsuit, Russell Brand makes £350,000 since rape claim. And we got The Sun as well. Thank you, folks. The Sun on Sunday, row over TV drama, 7/7 victim fury as Disney recreate bus terror bomb. Sick is the headline. Now let's get reaction to all of tomorrow's front pages. We've got comedian Sajila Kershi, Conservative peer Lord Coolvere Ranger, and radio and television legend Mike Reid. And here's another cracking story. It's a dilemma all of us parents face. When do we begin to let our kids live their own lives as fully fledged adult human beings? One mother has revealed that she still keeps a close eye on everything her 33-year-old daughter does. Emma Parsons admitted that she tracks her daughter Hannah on a geolocation app, redecorating her kitchen without asking, and even telling her when and when not that she can have sex. So when is the right time to cut the apron strings? Should you ever, Mike?
What is interesting on this story is, where are the two men in it? The woman is dominating her daughter, logging her every move every day. What is the husband saying? What is the husband saying, just stop now? Or indeed the daughter's husband?
Well, I think the men are sat at home just doing what they're told.
Well, clearly, I mean, when she says her daughter to have sex when she tells her, I noticed the girl has 5 daughters. So on 5 occasions, she picked the phone up and said, it's OK,
Well, exactly right. I think actually that the man involved should be thanking his mother-in-law because she's clearly quite up for it. But Sajila, what is a good age? Because you've got a son, haven't you?
I have.
And he's a big boy now.
He's a big boy and he lives on his own, but it doesn't stop me from worrying about him. However, as I'm sure Colby will attest, being South Asian, right, we had to, our, parents, grandparents had surveillance down to a pat before it became a thing.
Right.
Like, knew exactly whether via the aunties in the community.
You didn't need iPhones, you had aunties.
Your aunties are just like be coding up, I've just seen her in this, in the shopping mall and stuff. But yeah, so that was that. But I do, with my son, I gave, like, as soon as he was 18, went to university, that was it, his life is his own, but it doesn't stop you from worrying about them. I don't even want to know about the sex part of it, so never mind contributing to when he may or not have sex. I don't want to know about that part.
Is this mother loving and protective or a nightmare?
No, Sajila's absolutely right, because obviously our South Asian experience of South Asian mothers is the Asian network that would inform them of exactly what you'd done before you got home. They knew everything that you were doing. And sex did not exist before marriage.
Ever.
By which point, when you get married, you're immediately being pressurised to have children, which you're like, wait, we missed the middle bit there. But with this particular story, I think the interesting fact, as well as the men's voice not being involved, is I believe this mother's taken early retirement. From a civil service job, but she's quite young, 50. So maybe she just needs a job because she seems to be have a lot of time on her hands.
Management, I think. Really.
That's probably right.
Agent, she'd be very, very good.
Now you're talking. She's clearly good at telling people what to do. Well, look, let's now get to my pundits and their nominations for Headline Hero and Back Page Zero. So who's your hero today, Sajila?
So my hero is a Standing Together. It's a wonderful grassroots movement in Israel, and it basically mobilises Jewish and Palestinian citizens in pursuit of peace and equality.
Absolutely brilliant.
Which is, I think, that's the only way forward, is interfaith work. Be basically communicating, especially in these difficult times. Let's not fall out, guys.
That is the answer. Great nomination. Kulveer, briefly, your hero.
Hero, look, if the greatest band in the world, in history ever, releases another song, they're heroes. And in a world where we need a bit more love and happiness and light, the new Beatles track and the Beatles are my heroes of this week.
What a great shout. Mike, briefly, your hero or heroes?
Heroes this week. I think it's the appropriate week for the fallen of World War I and World War II. They are this week's heroes, without doubt. Absolutely brilliant.
Sajila, Suella Braverman, briefly, why?
Because she basically called the pro-Palestinian marches of hate, which actually then incites hatred, and more recently with calling homeless people being homeless a lifestyle choice. Pot kettle black Suella, is full of hatred and don't like her. End of.
Kulveer, a couple of seconds. Dominic Cummings' COVID inquiry. Why?
I think some very smart lawyers demonstrated how this individual is just egotistical, wanted to be the cleverest man in the room, wanted to run government himself, and actually was probably the architect of all the toxic culture that came in government.
Mike Reid, give me 10 seconds.
Calmed by a country mile, 26 million raped in the first month, 57,000 fined, and he still claims the air is cleaner. If it was cleaner, he wouldn't be getting any money in. I don't get that. That doesn't equate to me.
My thanks to my brilliant team, my brilliant pundits, most importantly, you for your company. Headliners is next, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. It's 1 hour. It's quality over quantity. See you tomorrow at 10.
Hello there, good evening. I'm Jonathan Vautry here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Slight mixed picture for those of us stepping out for fireworks shows over the next couple of days, particularly tonight. There will be some heavy showers across parts of southeast England, maybe with some rumbles of thunder. Outbreaks of rain also for northern central England into parts of Wales. Quite a lot of mist and murk developing also. Driest conditions generally for Northern Ireland and Scotland underneath some clearer skies. Some fog developing here as well, but underneath those clearer skies, temperatures dropping off down into the low single figures for some rural spots, just holding up a touch more underneath the cloud across England and Wales. That will take some time to clear its way off into Sunday, slowly drifting over towards the North Sea, and then into the afternoon we'll see showers pushing their way into coastal western districts of Wales, England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Generally, the further east you are, rule of thumb, more likely you are to stay drier into the day, but might still see few showers pushing into the Midlands down into southeast England as well. Temperatures ranging between 10 and 14 degrees Celsius. As we stared into the new working week, low pressure sits itself to the northeast of the UK, so we start feeding in this northwesterly feed of air quite persistently. So once again on Monday, showers will be most frequent across the west, could be heavy at times, maybe with some rumbles of thunder and hail also. Still quite breezy for many of us, but once again, eastern areas seeing largely dry conditions with prolonged amounts of sunshine. Temperatures generally around average for the time of year. Showery theme continues into Tuesday, but more persistent rain arrives to Wednesday. Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend.